Hey, transformational prevention again.
Oh my, hey. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose you, want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose you, want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. But we are stuck except you take my hand and know me better. Hey, know me better, love me better. Hey, take me better, love me better.
It's the transformational prevention show with Mute Olori.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the program Transformational Parenting with Mute Olori. A program where we dive into issues that impact, influence families and society at large. Today we're going to be looking at a very important topic, a very special focus, of course, on one of the special needs issues or condition, if you want to call it that. Today our special focus is going to be on children living with cerebral palsy and how it affects the family and the children with these conditions. I have my guest in the house. Mike is the founder of Heaven's Homes Foundation, a support community for parents of special needs children. She's the mother of 2 special needs children of her own and over 500 underprivileged special needs children in Nigeria, Cameroon, and Burkina Faso. She's a lay counselor, a bridge builder, a beacon of hope, and of course, an advocate of mental health. She's very passionate about a better functioning health sector and the social welfare services for the underserved, underprivileged, and children with special needs. My guest today is FATIMA ZAHRAU AHMED. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
We'll take a short break, and when we return, we will kick off the conversation in full. Please don't go anywhere. Thank you for joining us again.
It's the transformational prevention show with Mute Olori.
Welcome back. It's the Transformational Parenting Show, and today our special focus is on children living with cerebral palsy. And of course, my guest in the house is someone who is living the life because she has 2 special needs children, but she'll be telling us her story. So could you just let us know a little bit about, how you got here and an overview of this condition called cerebral palsy and how it affects or manifests itself in the children?
Thank you very much. So my name is Fatima, but a lot of people know me as ZAHRAU Unscripted on social media. And I'm a mother to 2 special needs children with different diagnoses. I have a 7-year-plus child who has cerebral palsy, and then I have a 4-year-old who has Down syndrome. For cerebral palsy, it's kind of like a permanent damage to some parts of the brain or sometimes all parts of the brain. And in layman's terms, cerebral palsy is a group of permanent permanent damage to, like I said, part of the brain that controls mostly movement. So motor skills can be affected, balance, coordination, reflexes, posture. These are some of the things that can be affected. And then you can also have children with cerebral palsy that might have cognitive behavioral problems. They cannot function like any other neurotypical child can function. They don't decipher things. There are learning disabilities, not in all cases anyway, but some children. And then cerebral palsy, it varies from one person to another. It can come in as mild or as severe. So it depends on what the child has. Yeah.
Okay, so your child is on what scale?
Severe.
Severe.
Yes.
All right. I had a guest some time ago who said the 2 reasons, 2 causes of such. One is during birth.
Yeah.
And when the child has been traumatized. The other one could be genetic.
Yeah, it could be during development of the brain at the early stage of pregnancy, or it could develop as the person told you while in labor, the process of labor and coming into the world, because that's exactly what happened to my son. Yeah.
Okay, so could you give us a little bit background?
Okay, so for me personally, pregnancy comes in. It comes in with a lot of problems for me. You know, the morning sickness, everything. I experience everything, so I'm mostly always in the hospital when I'm pregnant. So it's the same with all my pregnancies. It's not peculiar with only one. It's the same with all pregnancies. But for my son, when I was in labor, I had an injection that put me to sleep. And so, you know, I was sleeping, I was in labor, and then I gave birth to him. He came in, he wasn't breathing. Medically, it's what they call birth asphyxia when you have a child that comes in without it. The child is almost lifeless, so to say. In medical terms, they call it flatlining. So there wasn't any movement or any activity from the baby. He wasn't crying. There was nothing actually. So they had to perform CPR and then a lot of pumping of oxygen, manual oxygen. And so that led to lack of oxygen to the brain, which led to the damage we're speaking about now.
Right. So, at what point did you observe, that something was really wrong with the child? Because a lot of parents, they struggle to recognize the signs, in any child. So, how did you know that there was a problem with your child?
I think when the baby was, well, from that incident when I gave birth to the child, actually the doctor didn't tell me anything. But I know when we stayed in the hospital for a week because baby had serious issues with seizures. Immediately after they resuscitated the baby, he started having seizures. So they had to keep on putting him to sleep to, what do you call it, to abort, that's what they call it, abort those seizures, because the more a baby is seizing, the more chances the cells in the brain are dying off. So, he was always in sedation, feeding was via tube and everything. He wasn't latching, he wasn't suckling direct from me. So we stayed in the hospital for a week, and I remember when the pediatrician came, she told me that your child might need further medical follow-up, but they didn't explain why he might need that follow-up. So I gave birth to him back home in a private hospital in Kano. So when I came back to Abuja, at around when he was 2 months old, I woke up in the morning and there was a depression on the skull. There was a place where the skull dented. It sunk in. And that's not normal. You could visibly see that there was a depression on the skull. So from then onwards, he kept on having these seizures. And then we decided to go to the hospital, and that was when I got the full diagnosis that, oh, this is what is wrong with your child. He has cerebral palsy. It's a form of a brain damage. And then they were able to now tell me everything I need to know about what cerebral palsy. Well, we did most of the research anyway.
But there are a lot of other parents that may not just have those physical,
Yeah.
signs. So what are the behavioral signs or common signs that they should
some
really look out for?
manifestations, you can start seeing muscle stiffness. Muscles can be extremely stiff or spastic, as they call it. You can have a child that is as stiff as a rod or a log of wood. That's one sign. Then balance. Most of these children don't have balance. There's no posture. Normal things that a neurotypical child might be able to do, grabbing toys or reaching out for toys. Children that might have cerebral palsy might not be able to do all these things. Neck control. One of the first things you look out for is neck control, because there's a timeline for milestones to be achieved. Normally, doctors will tell you at 3 months, a child should be able to hold the neck. But when you notice that your child is over 3 months and there's no neck control, that should be a first sign for you to look out for.
How difficult has it been? I know it's hard, but
Yeah.
how has it been, because you talked about the neuro issues, also affects communication.
Yes.
And so how have you been able to navigate, these areas? Like when you mentioned milestones that's supposed to, but this you're having a child that does not,
Yeah.
respond to those milestones.
So navigating through the journey, first things first, you need to educate yourself about your child's condition. You need to know everything that needs to be known about that child's condition, because that's the only way you'll be able to now put plans in place for yourself and for the child, because you need to be okay actually to take care of that child. And then you need to seek support from support groups. If you're in a community where you have parents of like minds, be in that community. Be in the midst of people that are in the journey, because there are lessons you will pick out. Some mistakes that I have done are now lessons to others to learn, so they will not repeat the mistake. And then seek professional help. These conditions are, unique to each child. So the needs of a child, my child's needs will be different from another child's needs. So if my child goes to school, there's definitely going to be an IEP. There's what we call IEP, Individualized Educational Plan, that is tailored towards the needs of my own child. So it's different across for every other child. So that's why you need to work closely with these professionals, because they will be able to come up with, there's what we call equally treatment plan. If your child has to go for physical therapy, you would have a treatment plan. You have to see a dietitian for his diet for children that are on the spectrum, because I know there are children that have autism that might not be able to eat some of the foods we eat. So you have to work hand in hand with these professionals to make life easy for the child. Yeah.
I wonder how easy it is really for the child. Now, there are a lot of stigmas that are attached to this, because when you mention going to school, except the school is inclusive and those children in that school have been educated enough to understand, that you have to be nice to these children, so those stigmas are there. And then you talk about within families, so how do you, from your experience, handle those situations when you've got to talk about social interaction within the family, within society, and in school?
So like I said earlier, educate yourself. When you educate yourself, you will be able to educate the people around you, starting from the home to extended family to the society at large. Advocacy, and that is exactly what I'm doing. I started from home, teaching the people around me, including my domestic staff. They know everything they need to know about my child's condition, because when I'm out here, they're there with my child. So they need to know how to take care of him, how to cope with the child, what to look out for when he's in need of something. Extended family members like my own parents, my husband's parents, his siblings, my siblings, they know everything they need to know, because I speak about it, I talk about it, and then on social media, I advocate.
Unfortunately, a lot of people hide the children.
Well,
they are ashamed of it.
Yes, it's because of the society, the way the society thinks, the way the society sees these children. There's a perception about these children. And then I extended my advocacy to outreach. We go to communities where, they don't have access to internet, because not everybody is on social media. So we reach out to communities that have these children, but are scared of bringing out these children because of the stigma, because they themselves, the parents, don't even understand the condition. So you need to even educate the parents first, and then the community at large. You have to, we tend to desensitize some of these people, because there's this notion that these children are not human. They're from the river. These children are, spirits or marine children. So you have to equally tell people that no, it's a condition. They were born this way. It's a unique kind of condition, and you need to learn to accept the children the way they are. So it is tedious, but we're getting there. We're actually changing the narrative.
Let's talk about the child itself. Do you understand how your child feels? How are you able to help? I'm using you because you're in that,
Yes.
but I'm also wanting you to talk to parents. Because the child, I don't know, do you ever understand how your child is, your child is going through? How do you help this child to cope with the changes that come every other day? Because childhood alone, it's hard, and then having a child who is in this condition.
Well, for me, like I said earlier, my son has the severe kind of brain damage. He's blind. There's no communication whatsoever. My son is, I can't say he doesn't understand fully, but because he doesn't speak out, we have mastered a way of understanding his, there are types of cries that he can cry that you would know that, oh, this is discomfort. This is stomach ache. This is a fever that he's coming up with. Over the years, I have mastered, because he has different tones in his crying, actually. So I learned this when he was around like 6 months old. If he's having a stomach ache, I know. because there's a way he cringes when he's crying. There's a way he stretches when he's crying. So I know that is a stomach ache because he has acid reflux problems. So that was how, and then from feeding. When he has the reflux, at the time you're feeding him, he will definitely not stay in one place. And then it's a struggle. It's like a war. Because at the end of the feeding, I would have to change my clothes because he would definitely splot out everything he's eating. So over the years, I have learned body language because he doesn't communicate. So I have mastered, myself and my husband, we have mastered his body language. We know when he's in discomfort, when he's in pain, when he's constipated. But like I said, it's unique to every child. But for me, this is how I have understood my son over the years.
So the most important thing is take time to study.
Yes.
Understand the child so that you can help the child
Yeah.
go through this, because it's a whole lot
It is.
this child is going through. So there's no need to dwell in self-pity and be agonizing over the fact that this is happening. The earlier you start understanding the child, the easier it is for you to help the child cope with whatever is going through and navigate through it.
Yeah.
I'll take a short break. When I come back, we will be looking at some other issues pertaining to intervention that are available for children that are living with cerebral palsy. Please don't go away. I'll be right back.
It's the transformation of parenting show with Mute Olori.
Okay, welcome. It's still the Transformational Parenting Show. This is a very emotional one for me. And I'm just looking at my guest, Fatima Zahra Ahmed, how strong she is, how courageous you are. I mean, you speak about these things without any sign of, but I know it took you a long time.
Yes, it did.
To be here
Yeah.
and to talk about it.
Yes.
Okay, well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
So let's look at interventions.
Yeah.
Are there any form of early intervention, and how important is it, for parents to, after paying attention, take the next step, in getting intervention for these children?
So like I said earlier, once you get the diagnosis, you start looking for intervention options or treatment plan for your child. There are a lot of science breakthroughs out there. For me, we opted for stem cell for my son. It's not a cure. It's not a cure, but at least it improves the quality of life. The last time my son had a seizure, we actually spent over 3.5 years before he had a seizure, because he had high fever that triggered the seizure. And this was all because we went for a treatment plan that has at least to some degree improved his quality of life and then reduced the number of hospital visitations. Okay. So these are some things that parents can look into, depending on if your child has, because cerebral palsy comes with other complications.
Like?
Seizures, epilepsy. These are things that can come into play. My son has GERD, that's gastric esophageal reflux disease. Like I said earlier, that's the acid reflux he has. So it can be any other, related complication that can come with cerebral palsy. You have to go through tests to get to find out what are the conditions of your child and then the possible treatment plan for your child. It could be medications. Okay. It could be, like I said, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. What other therapies are there? Assistive devices for the child.
But this seems very expensive.
They are very expensive, actually. They are very expensive. Very, very.
So people who don't have the opportunities or the access you had, how will they get intervention?
And I think that's why they keep the children at home. Because a lot of people, since I have my own foundation where we meet a lot of this underprivileged families, they tell you feeding is the main priority right now. So they keep the children at home because they need to feed. When you're talking about physical therapy alone, it's not cheap. Physical therapy is not cheap. So, but there are options. But then these families, because most of them are not really educated, they don't even know that you can enroll in NHIS. But then enrolling in insurance does not guarantee your child will have all these benefits, because for 8 years, I've been buying my son's drugs without insurance, because you go to the hospitals and they tell you they're not covered. And the medications are very expensive. Everything about a special needs child is expensive. School, medication, therapies, they don't come in cheap. So it's not easy.
So where can they get intervention? I mean, some form of support. Are there government, own organizations or special hospitals for them, or places they can go? Because like you said, especially the underprivileged ones, they can't even feed, then to talk of taking care of a child. So the child is neglected, locked up there, and maltreated. So are there true resources or places they can go to have some form of help?
To be honest, there are limited resources for children with special needs in this country. And I think that's why I'm really passionate about social welfare, because if we have a social welfare, it will take care of a lot of this burden for a lot of these parents. Hospitals, you just take your child to any public hospital. We don't have specialized centers for these children. You just go to normal public hospital, you see a specialist, he gives you your prescription or the, whatever plan he needs to give you for your child. But we do not have specific centers meant for these children. We don't.
All right, thank you for that information, but I believe that we'll be able to get through to you to also see how, because you're doing an amazing work across Africa, West Africa and nations. So I'm sure that right now you have over 500.
Over 500 children and counting.
Under your care, and most of them are from the less privileged homes. Okay, now let's go back to the child. How do we build their confidence for them to be able to, tap into their strength? Because no matter what, we have some level of strength. How do you recognize their strength? How do you tap into it and encourage them and help them to build certain level of confidence for themselves and certain levels of independence?
I think support, first things first, you need to support your child. And then you need to acknowledge and validate their feelings, because they have feelings. A lot of times people feel, oh, because he or she has cerebral palsy, what do they care? They don't know. They do know. Even if they don't speak about it or they cannot communicate, they do have feelings. And you need to validate their feelings. And you need to make them understand that no matter how hard or difficult it gets, you're there for them. You're there for them. And then probably get communities, like I said earlier. If we have social communities that actually can cater to the needs of these children, it could be clubs or societies where children can belong to. You can engage your children in sports that are tailored towards those groups of children. It could be involving, if you see that most of these children, by the way, are gifted. Some of them are talented. You can see beautiful work of art and they will tell you, oh, it was an autistic child that drew this art. So learn to understand what are the talents of these children and then help them hone these talents and then push for them. Advocate, because you're the first advocate for your child. You should be the first voice for the child. You should be the number one hype man, cheerleader for your children. So if you are that kind of parent, it will be very easy for the child to fit into the society. And then the society should stop making the children fit into their world. Rather, the society should fit into the world of these children. It will make life a little bit easier for these children. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those very significant words, like, fitting into the children's world, understanding them, being their cheerleader. I mean, it could make life a little bit more comfortable for them when they see that we have empathy and we care for them. A last word to a parent who is really struggling with this particular condition, a child going through cerebral palsy. For the child, what last word would you say to them?
For the child or for the parent?
For the child.
For the child, you're unique, you're beautiful, you were beautifully made. And there's a reason why they're called special, because they are special. They teach us a lot. We don't even know. I have learned resilience. I have learned to be grateful. Things we take for granted, I don't take for granted because of my children. So for that, I say thank you. to my children because they mean everything. Yeah.
That's the show for today. I want you to understand you're not alone. You're not alone. Enough of the self-pity. It's time to seek help. And it is not the end of the world because you have a child that is suffering from this condition or living with the condition of cerebral palsy. The most important thing is you finding their uniqueness, help them, and who knows, that child may be the one that will give you the global visibility that you desire. My name is Mute Olori. I'll be with you again next week, and don't forget to follow us on all our social media. And when you meet someone in any condition, especially a child, please be kind. Thank you.
Hey, transformational prevention, yeah.
Oh my, hey, hey, hey. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose you, want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. Won't choose you, want me, take my hand and know me better. I know you love me, that's so comforting. But we are stuck to accept you, take my hand and know me better. Hey, know me better, love me better. Hey, take me better, love me better.
It's the transformational prevention show with Mute Olori.